Welcome to Spoken Synergy, the podcast. We are coming to you live from Wanjerrabara soil on Tamborine Mountain. I have my beautiful friend here, Nicola McIntosh from Spirit Stone, and I'm so very excited to talk to her today. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
Well, look, it's a pleasure. We've got a lot to talk about, and we've pulled some cards, so we're honing in on why Spirit wants us here today, so that's all really lovely.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just start with, for anyone that doesn't know you or hasn't read all your beautiful books or your cards or anything, just a little bit about your story of how you got to this moment in time.
Wow. How long have we got?
As long as you like.
Okay, so I guess I was always one of those unusual kids that always had some sort of fascination with spirituality, doing things in nature, as creative, and I always was documenting things. Mm-hmm. So I always had a notepad and pen. I was always writing down things, and I had an old box brownie camera I used to carry around in the front of me and take photos of everything to document it. So it's kind of, no surprise that I ended up being an author. But I guess when I was younger, I used to do a lot of art, but as I grew up and moved to Australia, I was kind of veered off that track, and also away from the spiritual side of things, I guess. And I was always told that you can't make a living from art, you've got to get a real job.
Classic.
Yeah, so I wanted to pursue all those creative things, and my parents were really supportive of that, and my kooky side as well. They always knew I was a little bit different. And so it wasn't till in my 40s that I got back to art.
Wow.
Yeah, when I moved to the mountain. And when I moved to the mountain, my life turned to shit because it had already been leading up to shit anyway.
Okay.
And I moved up here, and literally my slate was completely cleaned. I broke up with my fiancé, my cat of 19 years died, I sold my car, I was living on people's couches beforehand, I moved into a house and everything went to shit there. The water tank sprung a massive big leak, so I couldn't actually get fresh water. The gutters in the roof rotted out and fell off, so I couldn't collect water. I wrote my car off on the straight on doing 40 k's an hour. It slid off the road into a guardrail. My computer broke down, my laptop died, my sewing machine died, everything. And It was just like, have I made the right decision moving up here? And I realised that I wasn't a vibrational match to the mountain. I had come with so much baggage that the mountain had to get me in alignment or I had to go. And that's when I started looking into Celtic ways. So my go-to place was going down to Mullumbimby. Mm-hmm. And so I went down to Mullumbimby. I was just straight to a bookstore because books are my thing. And the first book I found was on Celtic tree magic.
Wow.
And it had an exercise and a meditation that you do every month on a different tree. And so over the year, I learnt so much about myself, so much of my internal work changed my external life. And I also picked up a book on Celtic shamanism, and I worked through every single exercise in that book, and it was about looking inside, finding what needed to change, getting advice, working with nature, connecting on a spirit level, and then I became a vibrational match to the mountain. And that's when the art started flowing through. So, yeah, it's the journey has literally just happened in the last 10 years.
Wow. Okay. I love all of that.
Sorry, that was really long.
No, it wasn't, because I have more questions. So do you remember the calling up to the mountain and what that felt like, before everything fell apart?
Yeah, I had always come up here as a teenager. Mm-hmm. My boyfriend at the time had a car, and we would come up here, and And I was very detached from nature a bit.
Mm-hmm.
I think growing up in New Zealand, you're around nature, you love it. And I came to Australia and it was so foreign that I kind of rejected it.
Right.
Because it was so completely opposite to what I'd grown up with. Everything was hot, it was arid, it was dry, and something about Mount Tamborine kind of reminded me of home because it's rainforesty and all that kind of stuff. But that when I was looking for a place to stay and living in people's, like, looking after their homes while they were on holidays and staying on my best friend at the time on her couch for a few weeks, I was just like, I can't move into another house in Brisbane and keep doing the same thing that I'm doing and still being absolutely bloody miserable. So it's just like, God, I'd really love to live in a place I don't need to take a holiday from.
Lovely.
Because I didn't have much money. So it's just like, if you don't have much money, you don't get your holidays. So I need to live somewhere I don't need to take a holiday from. And I thought, wow, I'd always wanted to live at Mount Tamborine, but it was like, it's so far away and I'd need to still travel to work. And it was just one of those dreams that you think you can never achieve because it's just so out there.
Yeah.
And then I was looking at realestate.com and I saw this place and I went, oh, I've got to go check it out. And I went there and I fell in love with it. And there were all these people that were coming to view it and I was just like, oh, I want this. And then literally by the end of the day, they had told me I had it. And I'm like,
wow,
oh, shit's getting real now. It's like, okay, it's meant to be. And everyone around me just said it was stupid. Why are you doing that? Why are you doing this? Like, it's so far away, how are you going to live by yourself up there? And it's just like, I don't know, but it's been offered to me. And I always believe when something's offered to you, you should accept it or at least entertain the idea because things don't get offered to you for no reason. And so I bit the bullet. And then I moved up here and it went worse.
Right, so you may have doubted your intuition there for a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you've studied some things along the way to get you to this point.
Yeah, I've got a bachelor in Western herbal medicine and I have a master's in Chinese herbal medicine. And I've done a diploma in organic skincare manufacturing.
Love it.
And a Cert 4 in graphic design. So
Lovely.
it's all the kind of stuff that I put into my books and my cards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you use all of it, right?
All of it, yeah.
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 And are you using it in the way that you thought you were going to when you signed up for those courses?
No,
Right.
no. Especially the graphic design certificate I did. I knew I had to do it because I hate not knowing how to do things and the computer has always been my thing. Like,
Right.
and I've always played around with graphic design online, but I haven't had too many skills in that area or the programs. And I was working at Suncorp at the time and I wanted to do this course at Shillington College and it was a 3-month course, hit the ground running by the time you finish. And it was like, I think, $10,000 for the 3 months.
Wow.
So I bit the bullet. I saved up enough money to pay for all my bills and my rent for the 3 months, and then I got out a loan to pay for the course, and I haven't looked back. But halfway through the course, you have this lesson on where can you go when you finish your course, and everyone in that course realizes that graphic designers get like $25 to $28 an hour, and everyone's kind of looking around the room going,
What are we doing?
oh, fuck. And I'm like, oh my God, what am I, like, I don't want to be a graphic designer, but I knew that I had to be there. I trust my intuition implicitly.
Right.
So it's just like, I know I'm here for a reason, and I learned all these skills, which then helped me create my first Oracle deck.
Which was when?
I don't know. It would have been maybe 8 years ago.
8 years ago.
Yeah.
Right.
That was the Crystal Grid Oracle.
Got it. So there's almost like this You trust your intuition, but when you get there, it might not be as you expected it to be. And
Yes.
But you keep on trusting those leaps of faith, and they seem to be working out for you.
Exactly.
Where I think a lot of us can resonate. So it's like you get somewhere, you don't really know why you're there, but you're called, and there's a passionate response. But the world conditions us to be like, well, you have to study the course and then do the thing.
Yep.
You're like, no.
Yep.
So was there always a dedication to a creative life? There seems like there was a young artistic flair there.
I've always been torn in two directions.
Yeah.
So on an intellectual level, I love to study. I really wanted to go into the research area of like herbal medicine or Chinese herbal medicine. But then there's a side of me that just has to create. And it's been really hard to balance the two. And I think that's where the book writing comes into it. I get to do lots of research. I get to pull all my knowledge together, and then I get to create the images or do things like that for the book. And then I can use the book to create things from, so then I can create products that go with the book. And so I have a balance of the two, but it's always been a struggle. And you're always told you should go into one route or the other. But I think because I'm quite balanced in both areas, it allows me to think creatively. It has its pros, but it also has its cons at the same time. So,
sure. So people say either write books or do products. Is that what they often?
Yeah, it's usually either do something creative and stick with it and stick with one thing. Or, go and do your research and you stick with the one thing. It's just like, well, I think people these days are so multi-talented.
Yeah.
And people have studied multiple courses in all different areas that you can't fit yourself into one job description.
Yeah.
And I think people struggle trying to do that. And that's where the disconnect comes in about what should I do in my life.
Yeah.
Because that was the biggest question I had through my entire life that used to get me down all the time was, what do I want to do with my life? And it's just like, oh, yeah, I want to learn about herbs. Oh, but I want to do this and I want to do that. And, oh, but you're talented at this, but, I like doing that. And it's just like, it would swim around my head for so long. So I ended up getting a book by Stacey DeMarco and Jade Sky about finding your soul purpose.
Nice.
And you do all these exercises where you write all these things on Post-it notes and then you start deducting some or piling them into areas, and I ended up coming up with 3 areas that were like my thing, and it was educating or being a leader in a field, spirituality and creativity. So it's just like you don't have to give yourself a name or a job role or find a job description. You create something that encompasses those 3 things.
Yeah.
And so it didn't just click overnight. It's just like, this is how I bring my spirituality and my leadership and teaching things under the one umbrella is through the oracle cards and the art and the books. So a lot of people would say, you do so many different things. And it's just like, but it all comes under the one umbrella. I'm doing all the things that I love and it's having an impact. It's, I like to only do things that have a purpose. Because I feel like, what's the point of doing it if it's got no purpose?
Yeah.
Because I do too many things. I do some things just for the pure pleasure of it. But I'm like, we're here for a short time, so we may as well utilize it to like really help others. Because I know what it's like to be living from day to day, crying every day because you fucking hate your life. And you can't change it. And nobody can help you. So it's just like, well, I know what it's like to feel stuck and feel isolated and feel different. So how can I help others find their journey out of that and find what they love to do as well? And that only comes by doing the work inside. So all my work centers around doing the internal work.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. And it's so powerful because I think a lot of people are trying to find the same mix of helping people brings an element of servitude in our lives, right? It means that we can actually pursue something that's meaningful, which we know is good for our health as well, because there's a lot of lost people on the planet right now. But bringing in like who you are and the way that you like to work is super powerful as well. So that spiritual aspect and that creative aspect, and then it seems like you're creating all the time, but that's not imbalancing, or it seems to suit you. Because it's quite a masculine idea to just do one thing and stick to it, isn't it?
It is.
And we were talking about the other day, saying like, we wouldn't want to be the person that writes one book and just goes with it for the rest of their lives, or they do one research paper and it flies, or one song that goes famous and then they can just be creatively lazy, not really interested. Because what about the day-to-day pursuit of a meaningful life that really is
exactly
creating all the time?
And the thing is people evolve and everyone changes, the energy around you changes, the whole world is evolving. So if you stay with your one product, it's not going to keep evolving with everyone else. And the different lessons that we're learning and the different levels that we need to get to. So it's kind of like, I always think about how Kodak never jumped on the digital generation. And they ended up, I think, nearly going out of business, or went out of business because they was, oh, no, that'll never happen.
Oh, right.
And they were the leaders in the market for their camera films and things. So it's just like, you have to constantly evolve, and you have to constantly take on new ideas and research things and be up to date in your field as well on the latest research, but also researching like all the stuff from the ancients and how it was used, and kind of find a balance in the middle of still keeping the old ways but making it for a modern society. Because we are always constantly evolving and changing, and that's why I feel it's important to just, every time I get ideas, it's just like, oh, I've got to jump on that one, and it looks like I'm darting from all places, but it is, I've got like a bigger picture involved. But at the moment it looks like I'm just going in all these different directions, but it's all going to come together at a certain point, and everyone will go, that's what you're doing.
I think for me it actually shows up as authenticity as well. If someone's so into their craft, they're learning all the time, and they're not too egoic to say I know so much, because true academics and true creative people, they are in a constant like, I don't know enough, I don't know anything. I need to know, like, it's this insatiable need to know how like other herbalists do it, or other botanists do it, or other designers do it, so that we're always in touch with it. But there's always that fear around that they're not going to like the next book, or they're not going to like the next product. But in reality, does it matter? Because all of that is based on frequency anyway. We don't know why that thing on social media goes viral and that one doesn't.
Exactly.
And it doesn't really matter. It's just energy, right? So it's so nice to hear that you're in flux with that. I guess we're on a pretty awesome place to do that. Mountain soil is very creative. It's very dynamic. It's
beautiful.
Can be overwhelming at times if you're not actually in it. I've noticed it can be like so many ideas, so much going on all the time, so much spiritual information. Sometimes I'm driving down the mountain just to get a break. Like, oh, the concrete. Okay, I get it. Got to get back there now. Very interesting. So what would you say to your younger self, maybe 5-10 years ago, before you moved to the mountain? How would you comfort yourself around knowing that you're about to get here? Maybe for those people out there that want to be in pursuit of a meaningful life and a creative life, but they just haven't got there yet. They think something's wrong with them, or they're in that hopeless stage. What advice would you give yourself back there?
Follow your intuition, regardless of what anyone says to you. Even if it's your most trusted family members or close friends, they don't know your path. Your spirit knows your path. And if it's telling you to follow it, you follow it. And even if things turn to shit, there is a reason why. And it's about changing the energetics. And usually it's about, well, it's always about doing the inner work, but it's normally about having to readjust your behaviors, your patterns, because you've got yourself into your stuckness. That's even a word.
You've created it, right?
No matter how we may feel we may feel a victim, and that's totally normal. But then also, when we're really stuck in the middle of it, we blame ourselves a lot. And I think you've got to stop blaming yourself and asking for help from spirit, and asking them to show you what you're meant to do. And when you get that guidance, you trust it 100% and just do what it takes. Move mountains if you have to.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it took me, I think, nearly 10 months or a year to save up the money I needed to take the 3 months off to do my course.
Yeah.
And everyone was just like, why are you doing it? Like, if you don't want to be a graphic designer at the end of it, I'm just like, I don't know, but I want the skills. And I didn't actually utilize it for a good year after that. I tried to be a graphic designer. And I was just like, I don't want to do this. And my work just didn't show what I was capable of either. It was just like I was just all stuck going, oh, it's not working.
Yeah.
But then I realised that that skill that I acquired was something I needed further down the track. So I think spirit guides us but doesn't exactly show us why and where we're going, because if they showed it to us all at once, we'd either feel overwhelmed or we wouldn't learn the appropriate lessons along the way that we needed to.
Yeah.
And that's the important thing, is we've got to understand the journey, not to get to the destination.
Yeah.
So now I'm at the point where I'm absolutely loving the journey. Don't know where I'm headed now, and that's okay, because I'm now at a place where I'm really happy with where I am and what I'm doing. Yeah. And I trust spirit implicitly. It's like, you've got a job for me. How can I help?
Yeah.
Like when I do speaking events, I don't go in there thinking about what can I tell people, and I don't rehearse it and I don't think about what needs to be said. I ask spirit to please come through and say what needs to be said for the people that need to hear it.
Yeah, 100%.
And it's just changed my whole way of doing things, I think. It's not about us. It's about stepping like to the side and letting spirit work through us as well. So we would kind of work together, but enjoying it at the same time. You have to be passionate about what you're doing. When you find your passion, spirit then comes through you and uses your passion to teach.
Yeah. Yeah, I really resonate with that, because that's what pulls us into service, right? And that's a humble place. It's not so based on achievement. People use these words like you're a high achiever or you're trying to, it's like, we're not trying to get anywhere. We're just trusting that spirit will give us the ideas and we'll pursue it if that serves the world, the community, or the mission somehow.
Yep.
And if that means putting ourselves on camera and doing podcasts and stuff, I say, so be it.
Yeah.
And then we just decide what in that moment was important for us and what might hit someone else later.
Exactly.
Because someone could watch this recording 5 years down the track and it could change their lives.
Yep.
And that's all we're doing it for. We're not doing it for just recognition and egoic wants or anything like that. It's really
planting the seed.
Yeah. Service keeps us in line with all of that. Did you have any idea that you could produce book after book and deck after deck a few years ago even?
No.
Because now you're just churning. It's beautiful.
Yeah, now the ideas are just like, I'm like, I need more time.
Yeah.
But I realise that, a lot of the ideas are out there for everyone.
Yes.
It's whether or not you can grab it and run with it and do something with it yourself.
Yeah.
So it's like, you can't store all them all for yourself because you want to achieve them all. It's just like, all right, I'm going to take that one and I'm going to run with it and I can do the work. And that's why so many people have the same idea at the same time, because it's not really your original idea. It's coming from spirit.
Yeah, absolutely. And they say that, like, the things that soar, like if you sell 1 million copies of something, it's really that most people had the same idea at the one time and someone materialized it.
Yeah.
But they all resonate with it because they thought about it as well.
Yeah, exactly.
So I want to talk about 2 things, just because it's important for people to hear. Tell me about the resistance from the people around you when you kept on trusting your intuition. And I'm curious about how they respond to what you're doing now. Are those people still in your life? Have they changed their tune? Did you have to like let them go and start again, or?
Yeah, well, the thing is because I come from the corporate world.
True.
I have a whole range of friends that are in the corporate area that keep their spirituality kind of under lock and key. And then I have another group of people where spirituality is all out in the open and we talk freely about it. So I always kind of, like the shaman does, they have a foot in both worlds.
Mm-hmm.
And that is part of my reason why I'm here, to help join the two so there's no segregation.
Mm-hmm.
And so I find I do have people in both areas that the people over here don't want to know anything about, like office environment, and office people think that spirituality stuff is all woo-woo.
Sure, yeah.
So it's just
Both
like,
extremes.
I have a way of communicating spirituality to this kind of area in a manner that they understand.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the shaman's role,
Mm-hmm.
of being able to communicate what spirit wants in a form that people can understand.
Mm-hmm.
And so sometimes that's through art, sometimes that's through words.
Mm-hmm.
So there's some, like a lot of people that I have kept as friends, and they've noticed my journey, and there's some things that I have, some parts of myself I still don't let them see,
Sure.
and vice versa. So I can step in and out of both worlds pretty freely, but it would be really nice to have them join together and nothing be like off the table discussion. It's,
Yeah.
yeah. So I mean, even like yesterday, I had an opportunity, and I was kind of told, oh, but just, play down the witchy stuff. And it's just like, well, I don't actually show the witchy stuff. I don't class myself as a witch, and I class myself as a medicine woman. And the term witch has just got so much negative connotations to it, and that's what people get put off by.
Yeah.
And so some of those people are not in my life. Some of those people will look at my stuff and go, what the fuck?
Mm-hmm.
But then the majority of people who actually know me, know that I am a very normal and grounded person, and I have my feet both planted on the ground. So if they come into my life or not, it's up to them, but I don't get swayed by anyone anymore.
Yeah. So nice to hear, right? And there will be backlash and judgments and connotations no matter what we choose to express.
Yeah,
But I guess you got to meet people where they're at so that it resonates, right?
exactly.
Rather than this old model that still exists of a hierarchy where someone very spiritual is at the top and knows more than everybody else.
Yeah,
It doesn't work because that breeds dependency. It's just like, where can you go to communicate the knowledge that you have freely and embody it, right?
yeah,
So that's the authentic part. It's just embodying some of those themes from shamanism, witchcraft, and not needing to get so caught up on a title. 'Cause
Yeah.
the title changes.
yeah,
Some days we're still very corporate. Some days we're into witchcraft. Some days we're shamans, and some days we're just ordinary people.
yeah,
And we
exactly.
need to be as well.
Yeah,
So that it's not so, I guess social media hasn't done us any favors there. It's really like, what's at the face value of what this person is giving. But your work is different to your personal life, and you
Yep.
can adjust who you are for many different people.
Yeah.
But you'll always get that, oh, just dial it down a bit.
Yeah.
Don't be so strong in that area.
yeah.
Yeah, like don't come out and,
Wear something normal.
yeah, wear something normal, right? But also at times when you are in service to the message, at times you need to trigger people, make them feel uncomfortable with how far into it you are. It's part of it. Because you can be wearing something normal and drippingly sweet and someone was going to have a problem with it. But that's part of the medicine, right?
Yeah.
That's what hits people in that frequency of.
Yeah.
The other thing that I am curious about is what's the discipline and the showing up to the creativity like every day? Because a lot of people talk to me about, they've got grand ideas, writing books, doing decks, but they struggle with the day-to-day commitment to it. So for you, what does it look like? Is it
I
structured?
can't stop.
Yeah, awesome.
I literally am excited to go to bed because I'm thinking of the ideas I'm going to be doing in the morning.
Fantastic.
And then I wake up in the morning, I'm like, oh, I've got to get out of bed and I've got to start. And I'll literally be at my desk by like 8 o'clock in the morning. And I could literally sit there for 12 hours a day without even moving if I had to. Yeah, and that's, the discipline has only been there since moving to the mountain. Like I was interested in creative stuff, and it used to be my escape
Yep. Got it.
from my partner at the time. It's just like, oh, I'm going to do something creative, and then I'd be in my room for like hours and hours and hours. Like, oh yeah, I need to be here.
Interesting.
Yeah, and then when I moved up to the mountain, I started working with timber and making my wands, and it was just so healing for me. But I was just working with spirit and bringing these different elements together it was eye-opening for me, because I had never experienced co-creating with spiritual elements. I realized that by the time I finished something, it had a purpose, and I could literally feel what it was, and I could feel the energies and what they were attached to. And then seeing how other people also experience that, I was just like, okay, well, I'm not making it up.
Totally. Yeah.
And then it was just like, okay. And then I just kind of let it flow. And then the more I let it flow, it was just like, I cannot stop creating now. So it was just like ideas, I'm never short of ideas. I'm just always short of the time to do it in. And I'm very good at running myself into the ground, which I'm really trying better not to. Knowing my limits and focusing more on what's mostly important.
Nice.
But yeah, I can get up and I can work right through day after day after day after day if I had to. Yeah, I just love it.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? I certainly know what it's like to be too tired to pursue anything that's meaningful and just be getting through each day, and then to have the problem of like, I would love to do all of it, but I literally only have a certain amount of resources. It doesn't matter if I hire 10 people. We've collectively only got this amount of time, and that co-creation space is awesome. It's like, all right, I'll do it, but I have no idea what you're up to. And then it comes through and you go, I think I know what you're up to. That's brilliant. Right? But it's not all us. It's not... I can take credit for all of that because it was my idea and nobody else has had it. All of that is like obsolete. It's just in flux, isn't it? It's beautiful. Can you talk a bit about how that creative energy has served your health and well-being, and is it good for you, or is it...
It's definitely good for me because it gets me out of my left brain thinking. And when I'm in my left brain thinking, that's when I really... exhaust myself a lot, because I'm always constantly thinking or researching or something. So switching over into my right brain creativity thing, it just allows me to be in flow and not worry about time, and it's my happy space. But then sometimes I need a break from that too, because I exhaust that area, and when you are exhausted you can't create well.
True.
And then it becomes forced. And when anything's forced, that's when it gets tiring. So you've got to know when to take a break, but you've also got to know if you're procrastinating or not. And procrastinating for me, it's normally from overwhelm. I know that I've got too much on, and I know I'm time pressured. As soon as I've got like a time restraint, that's when creativity seems to stop flowing. And then you've got to try and take that time restraint off and go, it's all right, I can get it done and it'll flow. And then I ask for spirit to help it flow, help show me what needs to be done. And then if I'm really stuck, then I'll do some meditation. I will light some incense, some blue lotus incense, and do all the things to get me back into like the visual kind of energy space again.
Yeah, back into flow state somehow. Yeah. So interesting, isn't it? And it's a beautiful space to navigate, but it also can be very strange. Do you find yourself on a different plane than a lot of other people, or do you find it's ever hard to relate to other people's lives, or?
No, not really. No, I think because I see all the shades of grey in between black and white, so I kind of sit in the middle. So I don't kind of find it hard to relate on other people's different levels, because it's just like I can kind of navigate all the ins and outs.
Yeah. It's that being in between worlds, isn't it?
Yeah.
And tell me about the intention behind the books and the cards and everything. Like, what are you hoping to spark in other people, or what kind of change is it facilitating?
Yeah, so the bigger picture is the importance of self-care and bringing yourself into the present moment and just being. So it's not about doing anything. It's about allowing your nervous system to relax. It's about being present with yourself, your body and spirit. So if that means having a cup of tea, having the ritual of a beautiful cup of tea in your favourite mug, sitting out in the sun, doing your oracle cards, reading a book, doing the internal work, that is what my whole business is about. Because I've studied so much into illness that I don't want to be the ambulance at the bottom of the cliff. I want to be the signpost at the top of the cliff saying don't jump. It's about these are the things that you can do for yourself now before you get down the track of being so stressed out, nervous system's a mess, that you can no longer slip into that parasympathetic relaxation where all your answers can come to you. And if that just means a simple cup of tea and doing your cards, I mean, that's really all that's needed.
Yeah.
We don't need to go out and search for a million different therapies and a million ways of how other people can help us. We just need to be present with ourselves and ask our own spirit. That's it.
Yeah.
So my business may look like a very simple concept, but for me, that is the greatest lesson that I can give to people, I feel.
And it's so deeply needed right now. I mean, the sympathetic nervous system is haywire for a lot of people. I know some that cannot get out of fight and flight. Their cortisol's been running their whole life.
Yep.
Trauma, whatever it is.
That was me.
Yeah, right. So this is awesome. And it's awesome that you can put something out there in such a way that it doesn't need to be you force feeding and giving advice to people. It's really like you've learned that to get all of this into creation, that's what you have to do. And Elizabeth Gilbert talks about it too. She said, most of my days are spent in dedication to managing my mental health. And it's a full-time job. It's doing the meditation and the ice baths and the writing and everything that makes us relax so that we can actually get messages from spirit. Because as soon as your adrenaline kicks in and your cortisol raises, you can't hear them.
Yep.
And it just sounds like gibberish anyway. And that's when monkey mind comes in and you just start surviving, don't you?
Yeah.
And I'm watching all of these other syndromes coming through. And I think, how do we get these people into rest and digest? Because it's like a sliding scale. It's like they start going faster, they stop eating, they take on more, they overcommit, they think that the solution is something else, another child, something else, a bigger car, and you think, whoa, that's how the whole world is nearly running. And if you're someone sitting over here that does meditate and create every day, then it's a complete, how the hell does she do that? Which is awesome, and it is that dedication. Do you find that you have to work against some of your old conditioning, some of your old belief systems around how busy you should be or how much you should be doing something differently? Does that come up for you?
Yeah, big time. Because there's two schools of thought. It's about the new generation coming through and making a mozza of money on doing not much. And then the old generation is, you've got to work hard to make your money.
Doing too much,
Yeah. So it's just like, where do you sit in there? And I realised that I tried both extremes. I tried I'm going to sit back and I'm just going to let spirit like help me bring in this money and it's just going to happen and I've got these great ideas. And then you'd like, well, hang on, that's not working. And then I'd work really, really hard and it's just like, oh, that wasn't working either. I was just driving myself into the ground. And you have to find your own comfort zone. Spirit won't bring things to you if you can't handle it. And if you're going full steam ahead, you're stressed out, you've got a massive to-do list that you can never get to, they're not going to put more on your plate.
No.
You've got to be your own You've got to put your limits on yourself. You have to know your limits. And for me, I would always just push myself too far, or I'd just do nothing at all. And it's just like, well, nothing's happening. But I do work incredibly hard now, but I'm learning to have balance. And now that I'm showing balance, Spirit is showing me more. You're like, okay, we can see you're not going to burn yourself out. Here's a little bit more. But when you feel tired, you need to rest. So I would go hard and I'd think, okay, I've got a holiday. I've got 2 weeks of holiday from work. I'm going to do everything on my to-do list. And then so your holiday would already be filled with all this overwhelming stuff. And then right at the beginning of the holiday, you get a cold because you've been working too hard. And then you go, oh my God, I'm not going to be able to get all this stuff done. But by the end of your holiday, because you've stopped and rested, all this beautiful information comes to you of what you should be doing and what you shouldn't be doing.
Yes.
And it's like, all I needed to do was actually stop. Thank you, Carl, for showing me that.
Totally. And I guess when you're in tune with it, you get some pretty strong messages. It's not perfect. I still go back into the old model and I start doing too much, but Spirit will send me a sign. I think the one the other day when I was trying to knock out more videos than usual as a bird flew into the window and I said, okay, all right, I get it. Yeah, I totally get it. And then you pull yourself back into that. But it's that beautiful journey towards balance, which I think will be a lifelong pursuit.
Exactly.
That's what we're here to learn. We're not going to tick it off the list ever. It's not going to be like, I nailed balance. It was awesome. But I even loved the potency of the medicine and what you're intending to do, and the fact that it comes through as something you do have to actually sit down and read, or like sit down and shuffle cards and pursue it. It's hacking into people's go, which is part of it. It's got that all-rounded nature, because to be in high integrity and authenticity, you have to walk your talk. It's like if you wrote books but you didn't read books, there'd be a disconnect, wouldn't there?
Yep.
And that's when we can get into dodgy territory, because if Spirit's saying, I've got more ideas for you, but you've got to embody it, then it's the pursuit of that that's wonderful, and it keeps you in line, right?
Yeah. You've got to do the work.
You do.
You can't just read the book and go, oh, that was great. I know everything about that, but you haven't done it.
Yeah.
And that's why in my books I've got exercises to do. And in the oracle cards, there's exercises for you to do. It's not just about, oh, yeah, I've read the message, yeah, got it, and move on. Yeah. It's, okay, now I have to embody that. What does it mean for me, and how can I change? Because the only way your life changes is by changing your internal. Yeah. And that's the big key. It's like, it's just that simple.
Yeah, totally. And when you're graced with the opportunity to create meaning in the world, you know, I think there's this misconception within myself as well that, like, you find your purpose. I've never found it to be a destination at all. I've found it to be like a group of purposeful things that you do most of the time, and then you feel a bit better. But that purpose keeps you in line with the message, but it's not this one idea. So you creating books and cards keeps you in touch with reading and divination, which is good for you, so that you stay excited about it. It's like, it's a give and a take, so that we can actually be in pursuit of that. I remember when I sat down to do my oracle deck, I wasn't really into divination. The intention was off. And that deck taught me so many things, and it was not a fun time. I also decided to do a shadow deck, and then I went through all of my shadow. But it's like, now I have to pull myself away from too much divination. Yeah. Now I'm consulting cards left, right, and center, and I have to, I got one in my bag, I got in the car. But when it's like not a chore, we don't have to worry so much about discipline. Like, people get so mean to themselves about discipline, but when it's in that pursuit, slight obsession range, you have to pull yourself away from doing too much. Yeah, exactly. Right? Which is beautiful. Yep. And then we can have that balance, and particularly now that divine feminine energy is getting more popular, we can be in pursuit of things and be nourishing many things at once. Yes. And that's what we're designed to do. but the world is still masculinized. It's still like, do one thing, bank on it forever, stick to it, be an expert,
Yep.
give everybody advice, build a hierarchy. It's like,
Yep.
it's not good for us.
No.
I can already feel it.
Yeah.
And when I go close to that system, I'm like,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah. It's good to have the balance. Again, it's the black and white and all the shades of grey in between. It's good to have that masculine principle. And it's good to have the feminine aspect as well, but you have to kind of bring them both into center. You've got to have that drive to finish and complete one thing.
Correct.
But then it's okay to have a few things on at once at the same time. So I normally have quite a few projects going at once, so that when I've exhausted myself in one, I go, all right, I need to give that one a break, and I'll come back to it. So I'll start on something different. And that being able to like kind of multitask gives us the variety as well that we need, instead of being stuck in that, I'm doing that one thing. But you need to be able to come back and finish that one thing. So you need to know when to not do too much.
Yep.
And that's been my biggest lesson as well, because I've been very, very masculine driven myself. And then opening into this feminine aspect, it's just been, I just want to do everything, and then I want to buy all the craft supplies, and I want this and I want that, and then I'm like, overwhelm hits.
Yeah.
And overwhelm is the killer of all creative things.
100%, isn't it?
Yeah. So if you decide that you want to do a hobby, it's good to start with one hobby.
One at a time.
Have that masculine aspect. Start that one hobby. Don't buy everything that you need. Look at what you can make and learn from. And then when you've got, okay, I like that technique, I like what I've created, how can I push that further? Or do I enjoy this? Do I want to push it further? Because sometimes we get all caught up in the excitement of starting something new. We get all the stuff, we do it, and then we're like, not actually really excited about that anymore once you've done it. And then you move on to the next one, and then the next one, and the next one, and then you end up with so much stuff. It's just like, I don't know what I want to do.
Yeah.
So it's about finding that one little thing. And for me, it was really finding that element of nature to bring in. And so I started off with making wands, and then I progressed a little bit further and a little bit further. And so then everything kind of had to have that one theme. So when you have that idea cemented in your mind about, okay, I want to create products from nature that help people connect back to nature, to realize how important nature is and how they can find themselves through that, well, then you know about all the things that you can then say no to. It's just like, does that align with that? No, it doesn't, so I don't need to do it. And it starts to give you more of that masculine focus to then pursue just the things that you need to, instead of going off in a million directions. So I think we always have to, we look at duality, but it's the whole yin-yang principle. You have to have them together.
Yes.
And you have to see how they work together to form balance.
Yes.
It's not going one way, it's not going the other.
Yeah, 100%. I love that. And it's like the intention around nature is actually hugely expansive. This idea that you'll never actually get to a place where you've completed that lesson. And that's what we want. You know, it could be a very long life for some of us. We need something to pursue that's meaningful.
Yeah.
And in different cultures, they do that better than we do. But at the moment, most of society is in pursuit of money and achievement, and that's it.
Yep.
And I think people are finding that, as you said, the dopamine of starting something new is very alluring. But once you get into the reality of it, you think, there's no more dopamine.
Yep.
I don't know why I'm doing this. And we can do that with relationships. We can do that with, and you see people almost addicted to the change to get that hit.
Yep.
But how do we actually like stay in long-term commitment to something, to the people in our lives that we love, to the pursuit of something that is meaningful for us? It's like some days you are going to battle with nature. You are not going to understand what that relationship's about, but still you get up the next day and say, this is really important.
Yep.
And it's good for me and it's good for the world, despite the dopamine, despite the serotonin, despite that some days I'm going to hate it. But that pursuit is those two ideas coming together, masculine and feminine.
Yep.
And that's what we're trying to do, I believe. We really need to find that balance, because it's been so imbalanced for so long.
Yeah. Because the thing that I see with the sacred feminine rising is it this pendulum swinging the opposite way.
Too far.
Yeah, and that's where we need to embrace the masculine, not push it away from us. And that means also, you know, like the masculine energy is also finding their way into the feminine. So we have to embrace them on their journey as well. And that's why I feel it's so important for circles to not just be women's circles. I understand the importance of that, but I think it's time to start allowing the men to understand like why we do have women's circles and the power that comes out of them. But not that they don't understand, but I think that a lot of the masculine spiritual community is still learning where they fit in the feminine aspect. So I think that there's a lot of work that we can all do together, and I think that is what's really needed at this time. So finding ways that we can incorporate the masculine and feminine, like I think that's really important for us going forward.
Yeah, and I guess that's a nice reflection in your life. If female connection's really easy but male connection's really triggering, then that part of you is trying to update and upgrade. And eventually we want a nice mix, and we want to feel like we feel safe and nourished by both, right? And that's mother-father wounds as well. I remember at one time I was thinking, like, is Ankara going to be in a women's only space? And I just left it up for everyone else to decide if our frequency match was for them.
Yep.
And slowly more men are coming in. So I say, well, great, well, let's serve the men.
Yep.
But I noticed that when there is masculine presence in the room, it is anchoring, because otherwise the full women's space gets hyper emotional, which is necessary, gets erratic, so we have to pull in and structure more. But when there's just a natural balance, it's like we all have what we need, but it is in balance. The men can go into their femininity and we can go into our masculinity, and it just kind of works. And that was just an experiment.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, which I think is really awesome. Do you have any data around your fan base? Is it like a bit of both? Do you know if there's...
It's predominantly female.
Yep.
And a lot in my age group, so you know, between 45 and 65, but I'm starting to attract more of in the 20s as well.
Fantastic.
Yeah, but there are a lot of males there as well. So you know, some of them have had tattoos of some of my artwork and this and that, and you know, yes, it's really cool. Like it's I think because I create my stuff from a very neutral point of view as well. It's not incredibly feminine, it's not incredibly masculine, it's just that middle road. I seem to always do the middle road.
Yeah.
And I think that is the way that we bring everyone together. We have to have both aspects. And so I don't go so way out there with my ideas, but then I don't keep them too conservative. So I kind of find that in-between stage where I can communicate to the masses instead of to niche groups.
Yeah, it's kind of, I guess for me that sounds grounded. Yeah, that sounds like there's still an earth element to that, right? It's not completely fire, it's not completely air, it's not over here doing something really crazy.
Yeah.
It's actually grounded, which is part of the medicine. I think people are looking for accessible points to develop their spirituality that isn't so woo-woo over here or isn't as conservative as dry science.
Yeah.
You know, there's all that intermingling in between that is just fascinating.
Yeah.
And we need to see all different types of people just owning their medicine and living and breathing it.
Yeah.
And getting a look at them and saying, okay, well, it kind of looks fun and healthy, and it's not a radical movement where we're going to burn our bras and all take ridiculous amounts of psychedelics and like figure it out together.
Sacrifices.
Although there's nothing wrong with that. It is that really grounded path, and I think it's going to resonate with a lot of people. And just borrowing those concepts, you know, there's so many discussions about, can we borrow parts? Can we splice different skill sets? And I say to a lot of my students, yes, you can create your own modalities and your own expressions of everything that you've been through. It's not disrespectful if you respect and honest about where you got it from. You know, you're not
Exactly.
claiming that you are Celtic shamanism. You're claiming that it's been a massive influence in your life, and you're trying to respect medicine as much as it respects you.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's all we can really do,
Yep.
because at different levels of awareness, it's going to look like different things. There's going to be radical parts of it, like you moving to the mountain and everything turning to shit, and then you figuring out what this is all about.
Yep.
To some person, that's going to look extreme. But for another, it just seems like a really grounded choice to just better your life and get out of an old pattern,
Yep.
which is what the work is all about. It's
Yeah, like it's all dependent on how you look at things. So some people say, oh, that happened for a reason.
sure, yeah, that'll.
Or it could be, if you're a person that makes the best out of every situation, you're always going to come out on top,
Yeah,
because you're always going to find a reason why everything happened. So
yeah,
even if you believe spirit is doing these things for you, not to you, or if you don't believe that, it doesn't matter. If you're still able to see the positive in anything that's happened to you, well, then you will grow from it.
yeah,
So you don't have to have a spiritual outlook at all to
totally.
change your internals.
Totally, yeah. I think I was talking about that with Ryan this morning. It's like surrendering to that something is at play that we're not completely in control of, and trusting that spirit is with us and facilitating something. But even if you don't, it still is. Have you ever had that?
Yeah.
You're like, actually, right now, I don't trust this, and you guys better know what you're doing because this feels terrible. But in the end, it does work out.
Yep.
And
Yep.
a lot of people label that as like, you know, the toxic optimist or something. But it's really what serves you. It doesn't matter what the judgments are around it.
Yeah.
And surrender, we were talking about, is just constantly dying. Parts of you just dying off.
Yep.
Obviously, when you move to the mountain, part of you that said, I like cities and chaos and everything dies. And there's actual grief in that.
Yeah.
There's like, I'm not that person anymore. Now when I go to a city, I'm like, oh, it's all a bit much, isn't it? But we need those constant deaths and decay and rebirths, and that's what keeps us excited and in flow with things. And if we're not, then
We just stay in the same stuck mode.
yeah, it's like spirit's working out for us regardless.
Yep.
Whether we're moody about it or not.
Yep. Yep.
So cool.
Yep.
Tell me about what is next for Spirit Stone. Where are you heading?
Wow. I don't have a full end goal picture. I've nearly got my little studio finished, so I can have half of it's going to be pottery side, and the other half is going to be where I create my herbal creations. And then again, I want to blend the two so that all my herbal creations go into my ceramics.
Oh, I love that.
Hence the reason why, like, my business has just kept evolving, but it's still stuck with the same name, Spirit Stone, and it's about the spirituality coming to the ceramics.
Oh,
Where beforehand it was working with crystals and the spirit that works through the crystals, and so the whole business is still bringing that spiritual element in, and then having the ceramics, I'm going to have crystals with them as well. So it's still, I think my work is always about spirit medicine, and that's what keeps coming through. And when I created my logo, Spirit actually showed me that image, just bang, that's what it needs to look like. And it's actually the symbol for spirit at the top, but then it looks like it's being channeled into the stone at the bottom. So the studio's coming along. I do want to get up and running some videos and teaching of how to make the herbal products. And
oh yes, please.
And because I'll have the space, I'll be able to have some one-on-one tutoring there as well. But then I'm going to continue to make books and oracle cards, and I'm working on a tarot deck at the moment. So,
Oh my God.
yeah, so it's still all working towards the same thing. It's just, I'm just allowing it to expand and grow in whatever shape and form that is. And I also have a day job, so and I'm working up to 36 hours a week in that one at the moment. So I realise that Spirit needs me there at the moment. So my business is still ticking over, and I'm still creating the products, and I know that when I'm finished there, the rest will just be ready to go. So it's being dragged in a few different directions, but it's exciting.
And that's so awesome to remember. So I guess all the artists out there that I've worked with quite a few artists over the years, and they feel deep shame when they have to go out and get the normal job, but it actually does keep us in line with that balance idea sometimes. It's like, if you create every day, you can go too far the other way. Sometimes it's really comforting to just use your creativity for someone else's idea or genius and then bring it back in and run those experiments. But I also love how your business name is still teaching you about how it wants to be in the world.
Yeah.
And there isn't so much of like, I knew what it was about and that's always about that. It actually doesn't happen that way at all. I was the same. I just saw in a vision, downloaded the Ankara Academy, and people ask me what it is, and I say, well, I'm not sure yet, I'll let you know. For this chapter it's been this, and then it could become that, and always discovering how it wants to be in the world, which is
exactly
just so interesting.
Yeah, because you go, oh, that's why you showed me that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's why I've been doing this. And it's like, oh, now I get it. It's all coming together.
It's brilliant. Beautiful. So I like the idea of teaching people about the herbal side and the pottery and the beautiful little studio that's coming up, folks.
Thank you.
And the tarot deck. I'm so excited. So excited. I've been studying tarot just so religiously.
Yep.
And then when your deck comes out, I'm just going to be ready. And watching the evolution of that will just be an absolute pleasure.
Yeah. Thank you. I'm so excited for that. I've been doing so much research. And I did a whole suit and then scrapped it because I knew it wasn't meant to look like that. And then I had to start again.
Okay.
But I just had a moment yesterday where I knew I always kind of know where I want to be, and then I work backwards. How do I make it happen?
Nice.
So we know that the deck is got to be submitted by December. I knew parts of what it's about with my research, but then something really clicked in yesterday about, oh my God. And I can't tell anyone yet because it's a secret.
We'll have to wait.
But it was just like all the research that I've been doing into like all different kinds of civilizations and things, and the ancient gods of Celtic history and everything. The kings in my tarot deck, just, it's mind-blowing. Like, when it comes out, it's just going to be like, what?
I'm excited for the kings.
I know, it's just, yeah. And it's just like, all right, so the king that I've already drawn for the King of Wands, I'm going to have to redraw because now I know who's meant to be there.
So your deck's teaching you.
Yeah, my deck's teaching me, and I'm learning so much. So some suits are easier than others, and then some cards are hard because Spirit doesn't always show you what it wants. Sometimes you have to learn the lesson to understand how it needs to be drawn. So I've got a few cards that I'm stuck on. I'm like, oh, okay, I've got to learn this one. I'm like, okay, waiting, but no, it's not coming through. So I had to learn this massive lesson yesterday, and now I'm like, this is mind-blowing. I can see me doing lots of workshops on this tarot deck when I finish.
Oh, yes, please.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think tarot particularly is one of those things that we'll never actually know enough, ever. You know, you can read a whole book back to front and be like, I know less now than what I did before, because it blows open everything. But it's such an awesome way to work with something because you're just always in pursuit of like, what does that actually mean within myself?
Yeah.
And then I've been out in the world like, I think this is a Queen of Wands moment. Is that what that author was trying to tell me?
Yeah.
Or this is a tower, I can feel it.
Yeah.
Or is this what the magician actually means?
Yeah.
And you're having that conversation with you all the time. And I'm completely new to creating decks, but some of those animals worked me. Absolutely worked me.
Yep.
and they were the cards that I hated, and I didn't like the artwork. And then when I wrote the words, I thought, and I realized that it was teaching me that lesson, and I just had to accept it in the end.
Yep.
And it was still a very difficult process because you think it's just a product.
Yep.
In the tangible world, it's not.
It's not.
It's a complete collaboration with your soul.
Yeah.
And your own shadow.
Yeah, it's crazy. And then some of the cards that you're stuck on, or some of the images that you hate the most because it looks you think you've done a really bad job, you'll go back and maybe redo them once you understand the lesson, and they can become your most favourite cards because you've just drawn the most amazing image and it means more to you. And so I've been really looking at the Rider-Waite deck and really looking at the artwork, like from the actual artist's perspective of what was she trying to put onto paper. And so some of the ideas that I've got from the cards are different from what you'll see in the guidebook. But I'm trusting my intuition because I'm feeling that that is the right message that's coming through. And then I am finding parallels within Celtic mythology that work so well with the tarot. It's just like I'm understanding where the original tarot came from. So it's I'm so excited.
It's so deep and I love it. So I'm not sure how much time we have left, but you're about there. I just wanted to ask this question because it's fascinating. So if someone was, because Rider-Waite was created how long ago? I mean, and we're still fascinated by it. If there was someone in the future digesting one of your decks with the same level of intensity and respect, what would you hope for them to get from your medicine? Is it going to be something that's always going to be evolving? I mean, I wonder if the mushrooms will even be around and like...
I guess everything is always evolving, but our origins will always be the same.
This is true.
And our origins are where the tarot comes from. It's information that's been passed down that's not just, here, have some pretty cards. This is information from our ancestors and our origins about being human and being spiritual beings. That information will never change. And that's why the tarot is so incredible. And I know it looks like a lot of pretty cards, but when you really research and understand why each card was created the way it was, it makes so much more sense. And that's the part that I really want to teach, because then it shows people how it can give them their journey through life. And I know that sounds really silly about a pack of cards, but again, it's incredible ancient knowledge that's been turned into an art form. It's exactly what I'm doing with my oracle cards. I'm just turning spirit information into an art form that people can use to communicate to spirit or learn about themselves. And that's exactly what the tarot is, but it's been handed down from a much higher source. And yeah, it's just incredible.
Yeah, and it's almost like leaving those breadcrumbs for the next generation.
That's exactly
like
it.
That idea of legacy is like, you know, we're programmed to believe that legacy is just have some kids and teach them right. But for me, I'm like, that's so finite, because then they only have a lifespan. It's like, what if we create things that future generations will actually go, what was she going through to sit down and create this?
Yeah.
Like, what was her day to day? And I believe that we can have experiences in different timelines with those creators.
Yep.
So as she was sitting down with Rider-Waite, you can feel it in the cards, and you just think like, it's so expansive.
Yeah.
It's so multidimensional.
Yeah.
Because the artwork isn't complex in its skill. She wasn't trying to win an award with how well she...
No.
It's actually just all means something, and it's quite simple in its nature.
Yeah.
But once you get in there, you're like, what kind of mind?
Yeah, it's full on. Yeah.
It's crazy.
But the thing is the research that went into the original deck, that was all from like information that had already been passed down through generation and generation. So they were just building on what they had received and just repackaging it into a creative form.
All right, I can feel a second episode when your tarot deck comes out. We've just opened up a porthole somewhere, which is awesome. So we'll leave it there. Thank you so much for joining us. This has been Spoken Synergy. We're really dedicated to making some more episodes for you all. We are going to be doing it on Wanjerrabara soil as much as we possibly can. Thank you to Nicola McIntosh. Check out all of her stuff. Order the books and the decks and really get into it. And we really appreciate you sharing with such honesty and vulnerability today. That's what it's all about.
Thank you.
And thank you all for watching. Well done.
Thanks.